Oh, viewers, look at this. I've been quite naughty again, and I'm being naughty with Mr. Bill from the Fuel Power channel. We just happened to come along to Hendy Renault Dacia in Salisbury. Mr. Bill wanted to have a look at the new Dacia Jogger 1.6 hybrid, and we asked if we could do some filming with it, and they said yes. Welcome to Contingency Reviews. So this is not one that's been particularly planned. I didn't even know if we were going to be able to actually film this car today, but the very kind gentleman at Hendy Renault Dacia said that we can, so we shall. Many of you have asked me for a long time to get a jogger on the channel, and here we are. This is a Dacia Jogger. This is actually the top of the range one. It's the 1.6, they call it the E-Hybrid, it's the extreme model, and it costs £24,000 as tested, actually, which you'd think for a Dacia is an awful lot of money. You're like, Dacias cost £5,995! They don't cost £24,000. Well, this one does, because, believe it or not, this is a really similar car to the Renault Capture that I filmed back in January. It's been a really popular video on the channel. I'm actually really surprised as just how popular it's been, but here we are. 0 to 60 in this car takes about, I think it's about 10 seconds or something. It's about 140 horsepower combined from the electric motor, and also this 1.6 engine, not a turbo engine or anything. It's quite, actually, it's an old-fashioned engine. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you get very, very good economy. I think it's well in excess of 50 miles per gallon. You can reduce the price of a jogger quite considerably by just getting a 1 litre one. It's very similar actually to the 1 litre that was in the Sandero Stepway that Mr. Bill and I filmed in 2021 at the SMMT South Test Day. That has a little bit more power. The Sandero has 90 horsepower from the 1 litre turbocharged engine, unless you go for the LPG version that has 100 horsepower. The Jogger has 110 horsepower. Weirdly, despite the fact this car's only been on sale since March 2022, there's already been a number of changes, and one of the changes has been the trim levels, and also what they call a facelift. It's not really a facelift, it's just they've changed the grille and changed some of the badges on the car, which Mr. Bill and I were discussing sort of earlier. I don't know whether I prefer the old or the new look, actually. I don't know. What I can say is that this look that they have now, with the kind of very prominent, stylised D&C, which looks a little bit like the old DeLorean logo, it is a very modern looking logo, and actually this is a remarkably modern feeling car. I don't think this is quite as refined as the Capture, but then the Capture with that engine is going to be at least £6,000–7,000 more, and you don't get the option of 7 seats. It's not particularly remarkable to drive. You know, the steering's very light. It feels very easy. Obviously, we've got an automatic gearbox in this with a B mode for regen braking. It's not very fierce regen braking though at all. It really isn't. It's very, very sort of light regen braking. And in a typical situation, and today we're just on the outskirts of Salisbury, I have to use the brakes. I can't use this B mode at all for one pedal driving. Driving position is pretty good. I haven't actually set this up particularly well anyway, because I'm not going very far. I would really like a sunroof. That'd be nice. I don't know if you can get one in this car. I don't think you can actually. But the air climate control that's in this car, it's only one zone actually in here, but that's not a massive problem for most people, I shouldn't think. It feels fine, to be honest. It's very easy. The ride isn't particularly firm or anything. The weight of the steering is very light. Overall, it's just a very kind of nice, agreeable car. It's not something that's going to be exciting. I don't think people are going to be driving this particularly fast. I can see with the B mode engaged that the EV logo keeps coming up, which suggests to me that we're actually doing quite well. You can drive you know, maybe half a mile or so, I think, just on the EV mode alone, which will save you a lot of fuel. That's why the official figures for this is so much better than the 1 litre. The thing is, though, the 1 litre with a 6-speed manual might be a more engaging drive. This isn't particularly engaging, just with the automatic transmission. And the other thing as well is that the 1 litre version is about £3,000 less. Obviously, we've got the top trim here with the most expensive engine, and so that's why it's going to be a little bit more. But it's just a nice feeling everyday car. It deals with these terrible surfaces that we have all over the country and certain roads really, really well, and it doesn't feel at all difficult. I'm actually quite impressed with it, I have to say. So I'm not a massive fan myself of things like black wheels. You don't have to have black wheels. You can get the essential trim as well, which has fewer things on it. This has got everything. It's got the blind spot monitoring and all kinds of other fancy stuff. That's why it's about £24,000. This paint, of course, is an extra. The marketing brief of this must have been a bit interesting. It looks a bit like an SUV, but I would say, and I think Mr. Bill and I are both in agreement with this, but this car's really a replacement for the Dacia Logan MCV. It does have features of an MPV, it does have features of an SUV, but really it's just a sort of like an estate car, a longer version of the Sandero. And in fact, when Euro NCAP tested this car, they didn't actually bother to put it through all the tests, simply because they just saw it as a lengthened version of the Sandero. It only scored 1 star, but that's because it hasn't got certain things which some of you honestly would find annoying. It hasn't got, I don't think, pedestrian or bicycle audible warnings. It doesn't have audible seatbelt warnings, as far as I know, for certain passengers in the car. And I think the number of airbags is a little bit lower than most of the cars these days. Whether that's a concern for you, I don't know. The thing is, a lot of the time I drive much older cars. One of my cars is 20 years old, and one's 32 years old. So in comparison, this is a very safe car. And it's up to you whether you want to pay like a lot more money to get an equivalent car. I can't really think of another 7-seater car that's anywhere near this price at all, particularly if you go for the 1 litre. Let's have a look in the boot. We've got parking sensors and a reversing camera on this Extreme model. Unlike the old Logan MCV, you don't actually have to fiddle around with the key or find an internal release to get in the boot. You just open it normally. What's really good as well is they've left the car, this demonstrator car, to show the seat configuration. We don't actually need to fiddle with the seats particularly to show you what it's like. You can actually remove this seat entirely. It's a bit of a faff. I've seen somebody do it. You can take them out. I'm not going to do that today. It's just interesting to show you actually do get a low blind. That's one thing I haven't seen before. You do get a low blind. That'll be for when you either just fold the seats away. You can just fold them flat or tumble them or take them out entirely. And we'll put Mr. Bill into the back of the car in a bit and hit the seat, because apparently there's actually quite a lot of room for people in the 3rd row, which I think is really surprising for a car like this. It doesn't actually look too big on the outside at all. So we'll leave that one in place. I think it's 200 litres or so like this, and someone's even put here, here's all the sort of paperwork for the car. I've got a Jogger boot liner, which is nice, isn't it? I don't think that we're going to have any form of spare wheel with this. I can't see where it would be, unless it's under the floor, like a really old Peugeot 205 or something like that. I don't think that it's probably there. I've never seen somebody actually show where it is, so I presume we're just going to kind of sealant somewhere or something like that, which is a bit annoying, but it's just the way that it goes. So if we go round to this side and just open the door, you can see actually rear windows pop out like on a really old Mini, which is good. I'll see if I can actually pull this forward and see if we can put that down. Now, if I wanted to fold that down and tumble it forward, you can do that. I have to move this headrest. That's quite annoying. I'm going to have to sort of, with my one hand, do that. So you think, well, that's absolutely rubbish. I mean, how how you're going to get people in and out of there. But what I'll do, I'll just pause a second here, and we'll just tumble this forward a little bit, and that'll be a bit easier to get in. Right, Mr. Bill. I don't normally have somebody helping me, but I have Mr. Bill today. And he's going to get in. So we've tumbled that seat forward. It was pretty easy, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's straightforward enough. You just pull the tab, the rear, obviously back support, that goes down, then you just pull the whole seat forward. It's quite easy, really.
Yeah. So if you get in, sir, how tall are you? About 6'1" or something?
There we go. Ooh, it's actually not too bad.
You're about 6'1", aren't you, or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Look at the headroom you've got. That's absolutely ridiculous. One thing that we have noticed though, is just pull that seatbelt down slightly. I don't think you can do anything about that seatbelt. I think it's just there, and you can see it goes all the way there. And clearly, the middle passenger in the middle row needs a 3-point seatbelt, obviously. But that
would have been better here, to be honest.
Yeah, just kind of there or something. I mean, it's not a massive thing. I'm going to just be very gingerly lowering this down and just see what it's like with the seat up.
And I'm stuck here.
Have you got any leg room at all?
Yeah, got a little bit. I'd say about 2 inches of leg room here. Foot room.
Yeah.
You've actually got, if I can borrow the phone.
Yeah, I have it, yeah.
Yep. For the viewers interested, if you have a look down here, there's a small hump in the middle, but if you put your foot either side of that, quite comfortable, really.
Thank you, sir. What I have noticed, and I'll just move in here a bit, is that these are at a slight angle, so I think you can actually recline these. We're going to leave it like this so you've actually got some room. But one thing I've noticed straight away, the seatbelt situation is like this. You can see where it goes down there. This is now snagged. That's now snagged here, and there's nothing to stop that actually doing it. If you get out, so it's already snagging it. So pull this forward. And we move that up like that so you can get out.
Easy peasy.
But if we now put this back, what you've got to do is put this actually in here. And then that should theoretically work like that. There we go. That's not too bad. Do you want to sit in the middle row as well, Mr. Bill?
Can do.
One thing I noticed straight away with this is they have thought about stuff like this. You know, Renault were the people who came up with the Espace, obviously designed from Big Matra in the early 1980s, and it was one of the first ever people carriers in the world. And they had things like tray tables, which this has.
Ta-da.
Would you say that this is middle row actually gives you more room than you'd expect, or is it a little bit tight?
I wouldn't say it's particularly tight. I mean, in actuality, for those who've obviously seen my channel, I've got a Renault Megane Classic. It actually reminds me a lot of that. Obviously more headroom though.
You get loads of headroom.
I'd wear a top hat in here. The
one thing this car reminds me of is the old Tolbrook Matra Rancho, because that also had, I think, like a 7-seat option, and also it was based on an existing car. In that case, it was the Simca 1100, and also had this kind of weird sort of step up in the roofline, which you can see. It's like up until this B pillar here is a Sandero, and then the back is unique. So it's very practical. The doors are massive. I don't know how to really sort of show this, but they are huge.
They open really wide as well, which is great for accessibility for people with young children.
Yeah, I'd say so. The other thing I would say as well is that this is quite heavily tinted glass. You can kind of see the sort of difference here between there and there. It's quite heavily tinted, and it is quite dark in here. The headliner is a white one rather than a black one, which I prefer. And you do actually get a courtesy light at the back, which on certain MG models you do not, costing many, many times the price of this one, which is good. Everything does feel, it feels very, very sturdy. I mean, it's not the highest quality of materials, but you're paying £24,000 for a hybrid 7-seater car. And I've noticed the catches, a lot of people mentioned, we'll have a look at the back again at these catches of the rear seat, and they don't look to me like the highest quality, but once again, there is nothing really to compare this car against. The nearest thing I can think of that this car would come up against would be something like a Ford Galaxy that's just going out of production. Again, that's, I think, a hybrid or mild hybrid engine in it. But that's in excess of, what, £30,000 for a comparably equipped car. So we'll have a look in in the front here as well. Again, it's very similar to the Sandero that we had a look at about 2 years ago. It's making all kinds of weird noises. I'm not sure I like that, but it's just the way with modern cars. But certainly, again, loads and loads and loads of headroom, like tons of headroom. What I'll do actually now is we'll have a look under the bonnet, and then we'll have a look at the infotainment system, because that will take a little while. Okay, so here is the 1.6 engine with the hybrid system, developing at 140 horsepower. It is very, very crammed in here. I mean, home maintenance might be a little bit difficult for some people. See, this entire side of here is all the sort of hybrid system, which has a separate cooling system, but it's entirely from the normal engine. At least this one's not got a turbo or anything. It's actually a simpler engine, some with a 3-cylinder turbo that this car comes with, but not that bit. Not that bit. ABS modules there, servos there. There's the dipstick. I don't know where the transmission fluid would go in, even if this has, you know, a reservoir for transmission fluid. Sometimes they don't, do they? But yeah, we can see Renault stickers everywhere, because in some parts of the world this car will be marketed as a Renault rather than a Dacia. The front end with the sort of, which to me looks a bit like the old DeLorean logo, it's very kind of distinctive. You're not going to mistake this car for anything else, particularly with these kind of little carbon fibre effect stickers on the side of it saying Extreme. It looks a lot more expensive, really, actually, than it is, in my opinion. I think it does look a lot more expensive. It's only when you look at some minor details that it actually maybe belies the price you're paying. But I think for a lot of people, they're going to think this is a great car, despite the things we've sort of said about the safety aspects of it. That might or might not be an issue for you. It depends really what you want. For me, I think I'd be okay, considering how much less this is than, say, like a Capture, or it's just locked itself. That is going to annoy me. That is massively going to annoy me. I wonder if you can turn that off. Right, and then there's massive kind of Dacia logo on the steering wheel, which I suppose is a matter of personal taste. There we go. Look, you can see the startup animation there, which is showing that you are on a Dacia. I don't know why we need to remind you that, but you know, they do. Okay, what I'm going to do now is have a look at some of the infotainment system. We've got two screens here, touch screen, and then got the driver's display, and we'll take a look at that now. Okay, I've just been informed we don't have like tons of time left, so we'll just look quickly at this. If you've seen the review that we did of the Sandero, it has a very similar system. This might actually be bigger than that. You can see that there's a place there to plug in a phone or something like that. There's other USB ports down there as well. So you get at least two, and an old 12-volt socket there as well. Cubby holes are there, but there's a tiny one here. I don't know what that's sort of for, but we've got cup holders aplenty. That's probably an area to put the key if you want to. Just put it down there or something. So you could put quite large cups in there. Heating ventilation systems, it's sort of idiot-proof, really. I mean, you can sort of fiddle with this here. There's the fan speed, there's the temperature, there's the direction of the air. That's all you need, isn't it, really? And it's nice to have this just separate and not integrated in a touchscreen. We'll put the nav on here. Most people, I think, with this car would be using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It's actually very self-explanatory to me. I find this perfectly easy to use. We've got eco mode as well. You can turn that on and off. I imagine if you're using this hybrid one, you want the full miles per gallon, that you're going to want to use that as much as possible. Media, I'm not going to go too much into that. We'll look at this display as well. And then you can sort of go up and down with the controls on the steering wheel here. And sort of select what you want. Again, this car's already getting 56 miles per gallon over a 479 mile period, which is excellent. If I push the brake pedal down, we can start it up. But the thing is that it doesn't really need the engine at the moment. It just says the engine's actually off, so it will come automatically, but it doesn't need it at the moment. And then we can see going through various little displays there. It's not got grind mode as such, apart from the eco button, which would reduce the horsepower a little bit, but I'm sure that'll be fine. It's got 140, it's not the heaviest car in the world, this. I would prefer personally like maybe a semi-analog display with the dials for the speedo and the rev separate, but it's okay. A lot of hybrids are like this, and the steering wheel feels good. I can't remember if this is actually leather or if it's artificial leather, but yeah, that feels good. Automatic lights, of course, automatic wipers. Don't know what these blanking plates are. We're in the top of a range model and it got blanking plates, which is strange. Heated seats, of course. I think that's most of what you're going to need to know about the interior. Let's go and have another drive, shall we? Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. So rather than me driving this section, Mr. Bill is driving. We found out that the brakes are incredibly strong and that you can pull away quite nicely if you need to. So how does it feel in comparison with your mother's Sandero that we don't talk about on the channel?
Well, obviously she's got the DCI, and yeah, this feels really quite comfortable and very compliant. The steering feels lighter than that, I would imagine, because this is electric power steering compared to hydraulic, I think it is on the Sandero, because obviously it's a slightly older system on that one, being a 2016 model. But yeah, I mean, this is quite a large car to drive, but it's actually not, it doesn't feel like it's a large car. It's really rather compliant and comfy. Yeah,
I mean, the B modes, in comparison to other cars I've driven, I mean, you've driven some electric cars, haven't you?
I have done, yes.
And they have much stronger regen, don't they? This doesn't really have much at all.
No, not really. I mean, the brakes on this are quite sharp, I have to say, but then again, I've only just stepped into it, so it's just probably a case of me getting used to it more than anything else. Yeah,
it's only done 479 miles anyway. One thing I must point out, this car does have some safety systems. It does have blind spot monitoring, it does have autonomous emergency braking, and it does have hill start assist. It's just it doesn't have some of the other things, like the pedestrian and bicycle warning. And actually, we've just gone over a terrible pothole, and it wasn't too bad.
Barely notices it, really.
Yeah, it certainly picks up okay, doesn't it? It seems fast enough, although somebody in a modified, what was a loophole, decided to overtake us when I was just sort of ambling along.
Yes, they were being a bit naughty.
I mean, we just put your foot down there, it's come with some kind of warning. I don't know what that was. Who knows? It's probably forward collision warning. I think it does have that, and we've got to say it in front of us.
Not that close though.
No, he's not very close really.
So maybe if that is what it is, it's maybe a little bit sensitive.
Yeah, I've driven some cars with much more sensitive ones than that though. So it does have, a decent amount of technology. It does have a decent amount of safety. It's just not got all the latest systems. But then again, if you're only paying this amount of money for a 7-seater car, which actually has reasonable space for people in the back, over 6 foot tall, then maybe you just either need to up your budget to get something else, or you live with it.
That's it, yeah.
I mean, the engine's a little bit noisier than I'd imagine it would have been, but it's a relatively old engine. It's not the newest technology, but then again, if you're getting 56 miles per gallon on a combined run in a car like this, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, you say the engine's noisy. It's obviously, we're quite used to driving cars that are a bit older, so by comparison with those, this really isn't bad at all. But obviously, many of those cars are considerably older.
Yeah, I mean, your Megane's in 99, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And obviously for me, that's probably, apart from the Sandero, the closest reference, because this is a 1.6, the Megane is a 1.6. I would imagine somewhere in that region, the engines are probably related somewhere.
Yeah, often with Renault and Dacia, these sort of engines kind of tend to sort of evolve together, and so this is about 3 generations down from the engine that's in yours. But it might even have some common parts, I don't know. But most people won't be bothered about that kind of thing. Just like most people won't be bothered about the fact that there is a little bit of engine noise, and this doesn't quite feel to me as refined as the Capture. But then the Capture's so much more expensive, and you get less space. So that's not really a problem.
That's just it, yeah.
it's not got, you know, premium soft touch materials. It has got this kind of material here on the dash, but the average buyer of a car like this isn't going to worry about that, are they, really?
Probably not, no. I mean, it's perfectly respectable up here. In fact, to me, it's probably the most luxurious car that I've driven for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Certainly in the last few months.
Yeah, I mean, if you're used to driving, like, you know, old classic Minis and Panda and things like that, then it is going to feel a bit nicer. I mean, it is just very kind of smooth and easy, and there's no sort of hidden surprises for anybody, I wouldn't think, about the driving experience at all.
No, it's a nice driving experience in this, I have to say. And as I say, compared to, say, the older Sanderos, because, of course, as you've already said, this pretty much is a Sandero, but longer. Yeah, it's a huge upgrade and improvement in here over the old one.
Yeah. Right, so we've got to bring this car back, I suppose.
Yes, we had to.
So viewers, in classic contingency reviews fashion, let's just ask the question, should you consider this Dacia Jogger hybrid as your next car? Well, I don't see why not. I mean, you only get a 3-year warranty, and as I've said before, some of the kind of safety features aren't really there, but what else is really there to compare to at this sort of price for 7 seats? You're going to be looking at you know, 5-seat SUVs on the sort of value spectrum, things like the MGHS, which isn't quite the same sort of car as this. The plug-in hybrid model is £32,000 or more. This top of the range car is 24. I think maybe I would go for the 1 litre myself. I'd save myself some money. Mr. Bill is much the same as well, I think. But it's pretty good. I recommend you try one of these. The waiting list on these is only a few months. It's not like a year or anything, as far as I understand it. So thank you so much indeed once again for watching. Thank you to Mr. Bill from Fuel Power for being part of this. Thank you to everybody here at Hendy Road Dacia in Salisbury. And we will see you again soon for more last-minute reviews.